She gave him her heart, and he left her. I didn't hesitate when the doctor said there wasn't time. They said his heart was failing fast, that the transplant was months long, that without a donor, he wouldn't survive. I remember looking at him through the glass, pale and barely breathing, the same man who once joked about growing old together, the same man who promised forever like it was guaranteed. I was a match. They explained the risks slowly, carefully, like words could soften the truth. I could give him my heart, but only if machines kept me alive long enough to find another. It wasn't a fair trade. It wasn't even a promise. It was a gamble. I signed anyway. They put me under that night. I remember thinking this was love at its purest form, giving someone everything, even if it meant losing myself. When I slipped into darkness, I believed I was saving our future. He woke up. I didn't. Months passed without me knowing. Tubes, machines, quiet hallways. I stayed frozen between breaths, my body alive, my life paused, waiting for a miracle that never seemed urgent to anyone else. A year later, a heart finally became available. When I woke up, my throat burned, my chest ached, and the room felt unfamiliar. A nurse smiled and said I was lucky, that I'd been asleep a long time, that someone had loved me enough to wait. I asked for him immediately. The nurse hesitated. She told me he survived, that the surgery worked, that he healed quickly, that he built a life while I was gone. Then she showed me a photo. He was standing in a sunlit kitchen, arm around a woman I'd never seen before. Two children pressed against his legs, smiling up at him, happy, whole, alive, with my heart beating inside his chest. And as the monitor beside my bed began to spike, the door opened, and I realized he wasn't coming to visit me. He was coming to explain why he never came back. When he walked into my hospital room, he didn't look like the man I remembered. He looked finished, healthy, yes, warm skin, steady breath, a strong pulse that wasn't his. But the life in him had a borrowed shine, like a stolen watch, polished too often. He was dressed like someone who had been living well for a long time, someone who had stopped visiting the past because it didn't serve him anymore. I didn't cry the way I thought I would. I didn't scream. I didn't even hate him right away. I just listened to my own heartbeat in my ears and realized something that made my stomach go cold. My body knew him before my mind caught up. Because every time he took a step closer, the heart inside my chest reacted like it recognized the shape of him, like it remembered the old gravity, like it wanted to return to where it came from. That was the cruelest part. Not that he moved on, not that he built a new life, but that my new heart, my second chance, was trying to love the man who had treated my first chance like an inconvenience. The nurse had warned me about recovery, about confusion, fatigue, mood swings, about how trauma doesn't end when the surgery succeeds. Nobody warned me about betrayal living inside my ribcage like a ticking metronome. I found out the details in pieces, the way you find glass in carpet, slow, painful, and always when you think you've already cleaned it all up. There were forms, consent papers, updated emergency contacts. My name wasn't on anything. His wife's name was. Not girlfriend, not partner, not the woman who saved him. Wife. It wasn't new either. They hadn't met after I went under. They hadn't started a family in the year I slept. The dates didn't match the photo's sunlight. The baby's age didn't match the timeline. He had been building that life while mine was already on the operating table. I asked for my medical records. I asked for the transplant committee notes. I asked for the social worker's documentation. The hospital was careful with what they said out loud, but paperwork is honest when people aren't. Somewhere in the fine print was the quiet proof that made my throat tighten until I couldn't swallow. During the months I was on life support, decisions were made about my body without me. My care had been maintained, but not fought for. There were missed evaluations, delayed consults, a transplant priority classification that didn't make sense for someone young and otherwise healthy. And there was a line, one line, that told me everything. Support network unclear. It meant I didn't have someone pushing for me. It meant I didn't have someone calling every day. It meant I didn't have someone refusing to let me become a forgotten bed in a quiet hallway. I had given him my heart, and in return, he had given me silence. I tried to imagine him at home, holding his kids, eating dinner, laughing, being alive, while my body lay strapped to machines, waiting for a stranger to die so I could breathe again. It meant I didn't have someone refusing to let me become a forgotten bed in a quiet hallway. I had given him my heart, and in return, he had given me silence. I tried to imagine him at home, holding his kids, eating dinner, laughing, being alive, while my body lay strapped to machines, waiting for a stranger to die so I could breathe again. I tried to imagine him thinking about me even once. I couldn't. The days after that were a blur of rehab and rage. I learned how to walk again, how to climb stairs without shaking, how to lift a cup without my hand trembling, how to pretend I wasn't watching every face in the hallway like my life depended on it. And the whole time, I felt my heart beating like it was counting down. Not to death, to something else, something final. I didn't plan it the way movies make people plan things. There was no board with pictures and string, no dramatic moment where I stared into a mirror and became a different person. It was simpler than that. It was a choice that arrived quietly, like a door clicking shut in a house you used to live in. A year is a long time to be asleep. It's long enough for the world to move on without you. It's long enough for your absence to become convenient. And it's long enough for your love to rot into something sharper. I watched him from a distance first, not like a stalker, like a ghost. He showed up in public places with his family the way people do when they believe they're safe. Parks, birthday parties, school events, grocery store aisles. He blended into normal life like he'd always belonged there, like nobody had ever bled for him. He looked happy, not grateful, not haunted, happy. The first time I saw his kids running toward him, something in me cracked so clean it almost felt like relief. Because whatever tenderness I had left for him dissolved right there, right in front of that small, innocent proof that he had replaced me without effort. I wasn't a love story to him. I was a bridge, a shortcut, a piece of meat that happened to match. And the thing about bridges is that people don't remember them once they've crossed. I didn't want an apology. I didn't want him to look sorry. I wanted him to feel what it was like to wake up and realize life had been decided without you. I wanted him to understand that some gifts aren't meant to be taken and discarded. I wanted his body to finally learn what mine had learned the hard way, that a heartbeat can be stolen and it can be stopped. The night it happened, there was nothing cinematic about it. No dramatic storm, no swelling music, no perfect timing, just the ordinary world and the quiet moment where I became the consequence he thought would never arrive. It was late. He was alone. Just him, stepping out into a space that belonged to nobody and everybody. One of those places where people think they're invisible because nobody is paying attention. I remember how close I stood, how steady I felt, how my pulse didn't race the way it should have. I remember thinking, not with anger, but with a kind of exhausted clarity, you left me in a bed to die slow, so I won't let you keep living fast. I won't describe the details because the details aren't the point. The point is what happened inside me when it was done. There was no rush of triumph, no instant healing, just a strange stillness, like my body finally stopped waiting for him to come back. He went down. His borrowed heart failed him in the only way it ever could, abruptly. And for a moment I stood there watching the life drain out of the man who had once been my entire future. I thought I would feel powerful. Instead, I felt empty. Not because I regretted it, because revenge doesn't bring time back. It just changes what time means. I walked away like someone leaving a room after a long argument, not shaking, not crying, just done. The next morning, the news called it tragic, sudden, unthinkable. A man who had survived the impossible, gone without warning. People posted photos of him smiling, celebrating his second chance. They wrote about how unfair it was that life could be so cruel. I watched it all from my hospital bed, my phone glowing in my palm, my new heart beating steady like it had always belonged to me. Then the police came. Not because I was sloppy, because the world always asks where a woman was when a man stops breathing, especially if she once saved him. They said my name like they were testing how it felt in their mouths. They asked questions with soft voices and hard eyes, and I answered calmly because I wasn't running anymore. I wasn't begging anymore. I wasn't waiting for anyone to choose me. I told them the truth in the simplest way I could. I gave him my heart, and he left me to die. So I took the life he built with what he stole. In the weeks that followed, people argued about me the way they argue about stories, like I wasn't real, like my pain was just entertainment, like my body hadn't been a bed of tubes for a year. Some called me a monster, some called me justice. But in the quiet moments, when nobody was watching, when the lights dimmed and the air smelled like disinfectant and distance, I pressed my hand to my chest and listened to my heartbeat. It didn't race, it didn't stumble, it didn't mourn him, it just kept going. And for the first time since the night I signed those papers, I understood what love should have been from the start. Not a sacrifice that erases you, not a gift that turns you into a footnote, not a heart handed over to someone who knows they can discard it. My life wasn't his to keep, so I took it back and I made sure he never took anything from anyone again.